Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome to Finding Certainty. It's our favorite day of the week, Friday morning. Today is Friday, July 5th, and the topic today, I think, is very appropriate, seeing as how yesterday we celebrated our independence. I don't know what you did for 4th of July. Hopefully you got to get together with loved ones and do a barbecue or something like that. But my wife and I slept in a little bit. We spent some time at the pool. We made breakfast together, and then I got some work done throughout the day, and then later in the evening, we went to a movie last night and then drove up on top of the parking structure and watched the fireworks all over the Las Vegas Valley. All in all, it was a pretty great day. My topic today that I'm going to be talking about is the topic of giving. As you may know, if you've been following my show for the last few months, I made a change to my lineup starting in January of 2024. Rather than just doing interviews with guests every week, I decided to start doing a monologue the first Friday of each month. I've been working through the alphabet. I started with accountability and balance, composure, etc. I've gone through discipline, endurance. Last month, we talked about faith, and today we're going to be talking about giving. I thought about doing gratitude, but I actually did a monologue on gratitude last November for Thanksgiving. I think it's appropriate because Independence Day, 4th of July, is all about giving. It's about those who gave the ultimate price. They gave their time, their focus, and even their lives to preserve the freedoms that we many times take for granted, right? I think that's not always the case. I think many of us truly appreciate both the service and the sacrifice that created those freedoms, but what we can and should be doing with those freedoms. But I wanted to talk a little bit about giving, and I did think it was appropriate coming on the heels of our holiday yesterday. If you're on the video version, the YouTube version of my show, you'll see I'm wearing my U.S. Army hat and my Operation Underground Railroad t-shirt. I think these are both extraordinary examples of those who have given and are giving a great price, great sacrifices, and great service on the behalf of others. So many give their time and their effort in their lives. And so I want to give a shout out to all of our veterans out there, all of our first responders, 3 in particular. My father, John Laing, who's a veteran. We're truly indebted to the VA and everything they do and are doing for him. Also wanted to give a shout out to Carl Cogswell. He was the first investor in our company, Certainty Management. He's a dyed-in-the-wool Marine Corps Semper Fi, hoorah! He's a great example of a veteran who served and continues to serve even today in his 80s. And I also wanted to give a shout out to an invaluable member of our team, Mr. Glenn Copeland. Glenn is a veteran as well. He was a Marine Corps. In fact, he has 2 Purple Hearts from his service in Vietnam. He has a traumatic brain injury. He continues to have ringing in his ears, even now, 50 years later. He is an extraordinary example of someone who gave an extraordinary price so that we could enjoy the freedoms that today we do. I could have called this episode G is for Glenn, but shout out to you, my friend. Shout out to all of you. We are truly indebted for what you do and what you've done to bless our lives. So this topic of giving, I think, is an important one. I think it's an interesting one. In my opinion, it is actually one of the keys, the fundamental principles that leads to certainty in our lives, to peace, to joy. One of our team members, my partner, Jill McCauley, was recently nominated as Miss Wheelchair Washington. And in many respects, I believe it is for how she lives her life and has given and continues to give to us, to our community, to others all across the state of Washington and even beyond. She most certainly has given a great deal to our team. She's the bedrock of our organization in many respects. And, Jill's platform with the Miss Wheelchair National competition, she's going to Grand Rapids, Michigan this next month to, I guess you call it, to run or to compete for Miss Wheelchair America. This is a similar pageant to the Miss America pageant, but it's not focused on beauty or even on talent. It's focused on contribution. It's focused on how are they making a difference in the communities, especially not just in their communities, but in the overall community for those who deal with disabilities. Jill is a fantastic example of this. She's served on multiple boards. She has made a name for herself here at Certainty and how we are seeking to help and give to our customers. But she's a great example for us. I think the mental health platform that she's pursuing and promoting is an important one. It's extraordinary. She's giving hope, as so many of the nominees for Miss Wheelchair, the Miss Wheelchair competition, they're giving hope to folks who, in many respects, have been given a raw deal. At least that's how I think we tend to think of it. It was an unfortunate occurrence that put them in a wheelchair, or maybe they were born with disabilities that they now have to struggle with. And yet what's so neat about Jill and others like her, the others that are in this competition, is that they are rising above those disabilities. They're not focusing on themselves. They're giving to others. They're paying it forward. They're actually looking outward rather than inward. And that is at the heart of this entire monologue today. It is at the heart of this principle. Which direction are you looking? Are you giving hope? Are you giving back? Are you giving to others? Are you asking, what's in it for me? It's interesting because when you do focus outward, it changes not just how you view things or how you see things, but it changes how you feel. One of the very best ways to feel better when you're feeling discouraged or sad or sick, maybe you're dealing with chronic pain or a devastating loss, one of the very best ways is to serve others and to seek ways in which you can give, not just to those you know, but even to strangers you've just met. We have a good friend who recently lost her husband. If you can imagine, devastating loss on Father's Day about 3 weeks ago. He was healthy, 63 years old, working in his yard the day before, jogging, walking. I mean, there was no reason for this to happen. He wasn't diabetic, didn't have any serious illnesses. He was upstairs getting ready for church, and she heard a little thump, didn't think much about it. He wasn't coming down. She was calling him to go to church. She went up and found him unconscious on the floor. They called the paramedics, and they worked on him for about 30 minutes trying to revive him, and he ended up passing on. Our heart goes out to you, Jody Evans. We will miss Keith, and we will always remember him as an example of someone who gave and gave and gave. I bring this up, though, for two reasons. One, I wanted to give tribute to Keith because he was just a remarkable example of someone who gave of himself consistently and constantly. But I also wanted to give a shout out to Jody because she is the type of person who does the same. And I know she'll get through this. I know she's dealing with an unbearable loss. But I know she has faith. I know she knows where he is. But I also know that she will lose herself in the service of others because that's what she's always done. That's who she and Keith were. That's who she is. And I know she'll get through this, and I know that will be a big part of it. because that's who she is. As we give of ourselves and as we serve others, we're basically following those two great laws to love God and love our neighbor as ourselves. Jesus was onto something. He knew that those laws, those principles were at the heart of finding joy and peace in our lives. As we look outward, it's almost impossible not to feel better. When we're focused on others, we forget ourselves. Jesus said that as well. We lose ourselves in the service of others. Like I said, if you're not feeling well, go give some service. If you're feeling discouraged, depressed, look for someone else that you can raise up. Go put in some volunteer time at a nonprofit. Serve kids. Go be a coach. Pick up a hobby and work with others. Mentor a friend or help a child. That's the whole purpose, the whole focus of things like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and other organizations like this, because you can focus on raising that child or raising that mentee who needs your help, or coaching maybe a struggling business, a new, young, inexperienced entrepreneur. When you do that, you lose yourself and you invariably give of yourself and find more certainty in the process. That's why I'm wearing this shirt, Operation Underground Railroad. It's an extraordinary example of a man who he was an agent for Homeland Security. He was in a very difficult space dealing with child sex trafficking. One day he decided that he had had enough. He was tired of the bureaucracy, tired of the red tape. He was tired of not being able to save children that he could have and would have if he'd been allowed. And so he quit his federal job. He gave up his pension. He walked away from a big salary and benefits and everything else and started his own nonprofit that they called Operation Underground Railroad. Obviously, it's a play on words from the old Underground Railroad that helped rescue African-American slaves from slavery. Well, he has gone on to build just a very exciting, very impressive organization that rescues kids from trafficking. They've rescued thousands of children. They've put away and helped put away, working with law enforcement, they've helped put away thousands of predators. And this is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, guys. And they're working to combat it, as I know many others are. But they're just a great example of someone who's giving more, who gave up a comfortable, secure, cushy life for a life that was uncertain, a life that was dangerous, but a life that could make a difference. And Tim Ballard, the founder, and his team, Matt Osborne, and so many others are truly making a difference. I have a nephew who's serving a mission right now for our church in Portland, Oregon. And it's interesting. It doesn't matter which religion you are or how long you go. If it's 2 weeks in Africa or South America or somewhere, or it's 2 years in Rome, Italy. I served a mission for my church in Italy a long time ago, 30 plus years ago, but for 2 years in Italy. It doesn't matter who it is, though. When you speak to them, they will tell you that it was the best 2 years or the best 2 weeks or the best experience of their lives. And why is that? I believe it's because our entire lives, we are focused on our job, our income, our girlfriend, boyfriend, our interests, our focuses. We're focused on WIFM, right? What's in it for me? And yet when you serve, even in something like the Peace or Greenpeace or the Peace Corps or in any capacity, you are looking outward and focused on anything but yourself. We're already up against our first break. I'm going to come, I'll be right back. I'm going to share some examples of ways that you too can give and give more. And not just find certainty, but find enrichment. Enrich your life as you do so in ways that can change your life and the lives of others in the process. I'll be right back. So if you're on the YouTube channel, you know that there's always some behind the scenes insights, let's say. I mentioned I served a mission in Rome, Italy. And obviously, Rome and Italy in general is very Catholic. It's a difficult place to go as a missionary to share a new message, a message of faith, albeit a different religion. I'm a Latter-day Saint, so it was we believe we have a message that can answer a lot of questions for people, can create certainty for those who are seeking answers, those who are seeking to know where we're from, where we're going, and why we're here. What is the purpose of life? There's a great deal of uncertainty out there as people seek answers and so often don't find them. There's a lot of faith out there. There's amazing groups and organizations and just pastors and ministers and priests. And there's so many people trying to give, trying to make a difference, right? Trying to pay it forward, as it were. And they're trying to live those two great laws, love God and love thy neighbor as thyself. It was difficult, though, in Italy. We got a lot of rejection, a lot of doors slammed in our face. But we also found some people who were seeking for more. They were looking for more than they'd been given, more than they'd grown up with. That's ultimately the goal of any missionary, is to try to help make a difference. And it was a great experience being able to give in that way.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Well, we're talking about the topic of giving today. G is for giving. There's a lot of ways we can give, right? We can give a hand up. We can give a listening ear. We can give someone a ride or a lift. We can give of our time, our resources, our friendship. We can give the world, our work, our coworkers, our friends, our family, our loved ones. We can give them an example of an abundance mindset. There's a big difference between having an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. The scarcity is what's in it for me. There's not enough to go around. I have to get mine. The abundance mindset believes that there is abundance, so there is plenty to go around, that we can share. We can share our perspectives, our beliefs. We can share our resources. We hear in the Bible the story of the city of Enoch. We hear of the principle of consecration, where people had all things in common. Sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? But it is the eternal, it is the true, really it is the form of government that God wants us to have. He wants us to understand what it would be like, the joy, the peace, the fulfillment that could come from having all things in common, of consecrating our efforts and our resources and working together where there is no poor among us. Can you even imagine if people were willing to give in that way? I believe that is what the millennium will be like. I believe that's what heaven will be like. There will be no poor, no lame, no sick or afflicted among us. That's what Christ gave to us. He gave us the opportunity to live again, to have a perfect, immortal body, and also the opportunity to repent and become more. He gave us this extraordinary gift to become like him, to become who we could be, to achieve our potential. Question is what do we do with that gift? So many are seeking to do that. They're seeking to give hope, seeking to give mentorship. Talk about Jill and the Miss Wheelchair pageant and the whole organization. That is what they live for. That is what drives them. And you see, even in the midst of their disabilities, their challenges, physical, emotional, they are thriving and blessing the lives of millions in the process. And that's really what it's all about. We can give of ourselves as a mentor, as a coach, as an employer, even just as a friend. Sometimes people just need an opportunity. They need a listening ear. One of my greatest joys is our company, Certainty Management. We also have Certainty Global, what we call the Certainty Collective. And it's been a really, it's not just a fulfilling, but almost overwhelming experience seeing what it means to people to give them an opportunity to change their lives. I mean, as any business, as any entrepreneur, it all starts with giving a damn, right? It's about giving a dang, excuse the French, but it's about caring, right? It's about giving good service to your employees, to your customers, the community. For many entrepreneurs, it's giving hours and hours, giving their heart and soul to building something. But this principle of giving an opportunity to someone, I think, is very special. And it's packed with a lot of meaning and a lot of layers. I come from a family where my brother and sister are adopted. My sister Chai is adopted from Korea. My brother Adam is adopted from Samoa. And you know that when my parents gave them the opportunity to grow up in our family, you'd think that that was a one-way gift, right? We gave them this great opportunity. Come live in America, blah, blah, blah. But do you know that we have received as a family so much in return? It's an interesting principle about giving, that it is reciprocal. It's very rarely one directional. Same thing with parenting, right? You pour yourselves into your children, and eventually it comes back to you tenfold in the form of understanding when they finally grow up and get it, that you were actually doing the best you could. Right? It comes with appreciation. It comes with respect. It comes with grandchildren, hopefully. It is very rarely one directional. I've seen the same in our company, Certainty Management. I've seen just the ability to serve and to thrive and to collaborate with these extraordinary people. It helps us to continue to grow. As we give to them, they give back tenfold. One of the things I'm working on is learning how to give more opportunity, more responsibility, to learn how to delegate is an important principle, obviously, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. But there are great benefits when you delegate. There's great benefits when you share in the workload and give people your trust. When you take it off your shoulders and give it to someone else. I struggle with this sometimes because I feel guilty. I feel like I'm loading on them the weight that I should carry as the founder and CEO. But that's a fallacy. It's faulty thinking. I know, because we have amazing people on our team: Victoria Foster and Jill McCauley, Andy Tenney, David Basquiat, Brian Pointer, Liz Deal. The list goes on. I know that they are hungry for it. They clamor for it. They tell me all the time, give us more to do. And you know, when you do that, when you give of yourself and you delegate to others, you share in the responsibility, it shows them that you trust them, it builds the relationship, it helps them grow, takes obviously the workload off your plate so you can focus on other things. But together, it gives both parties the opportunity to become more efficient, more competent, more confident, more. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm starting to understand it. I have amazing people helping me. So I'm starting to realize more and more how important it is. It's important that we give ourselves opportunities as well. Last year, I invested in a course by a pianist by the name of Stephen Ridley, the Ridley Piano Course. And it's a series of modules where he teaches you everything about how to play the piano, and he kind of breaks the mold of how piano is taught. It teaches you in a very, I think non-traditional way, and it's really amazing. That was a little gift I gave myself, because I play a little bit of piano. I play by ear. I took lessons when I was a kid, but I'm nowhere near where I'd like to be. And do you know how satisfying it has been to be working on a talent for myself, to give myself permission to do that? It's almost, it's difficult to explain, but it's very special. I don't think it's as fulfilling as giving to others, as serving others. I find much more joy giving to my kids, my wife, my parents. But every now and then, it's kind of fun to give yourself a reward. Give yourself permission to indulge and to enjoy. Um, I remember when I was in in Portland, Oregon, worked for a company named Leaf Guard Northwest, and we gave our team permission. We gave them the responsibility, and we taught them how to take ownership in their work. We taught them what's called the 4 disciplines of execution. It's a Stephen Covey principle. We gave them the autonomy to make decisions. We worked with them to help the installers and the salespeople understand each other, to give each other the benefit of the doubt, to spend more time together. We led them by example, and we helped them to give each other more due, more credence, more patience. When we did that, it changed everything, and they embraced it. They took ownership. We started giving out awards for ownership every quarter. We went on to become the #1 office in the country out of 65. We went from 3.5 million to 7.5 million to 15.8 million to $20 million per year in a little market. I mean, comparatively, Portland is much smaller than Seattle, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, and yet we beat them all. In fact, sometimes we sold more in 1 month than #2 and #3 combined. Well, how did we do that? We did it by giving them an example of giving each other the benefit of the doubt, of giving each other your support, of giving each other your friendship, not just your camaraderie and your workmanship, your partnership, but your friendship. We made the salespeople and the installers friends. And do you know, they accomplished miracles. I think so many of us need to understand the value of giving 100%, going above and beyond. I think of work ethic as one of the most important principles in our work. And I think of great examples in both of my grandfathers, George S. Tate, and my dad's dad, Charles William Laing. Both were entrepreneurs. Both gave their heart and soul to their families, to their communities. I think of other examples of my siblings, Adam and Shai, my parents, my colleagues. I'm so grateful for their examples that they have given me and of giving me room to grow and to learn. I think one of the most important lessons we can learn and principles that we can remember is to give each other room to grow. To give each other a break. Give each other space to fail, to fall short, to not be perfect. Nobody is, right? And yet so often we expect perfection from others. The Bible talks about taking the beam out of our eye, because we're focused on the mote that's in someone else's. It's one of the things I love about my wife. She is the most patient and supportive person I think I've ever met, probably to a fault. But I am eternally grateful for that characteristic in her. We can give each other our support, our faith, give them our vote. Obviously, that's important this year. We can also give people room and latitude to vote differently from us, to think differently, to believe differently. As a missionary, we didn't go out to change people's faith. We went out to fill in the gaps, to find those who were looking for answers. We didn't want to convert people. We wanted to support people in their journey. Worked with a lot of younger folks and others who had always felt empty. They had always been searching for more. We were able to come in and help. I think it's important we give each other our patience and the benefit of the doubt, just like our installers and salespeople at LeafGuard, as I was talking about. We need to give them our trust. Doesn't necessarily have to be blind trust. I've been burned by blind faith, by trusting too quickly. I've been taken advantage of. I have become more jaded and more circumspect, I guess you could say, in my old age. But I still want to trust people. I still want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I usually will until proven wrong. But I am more cautionary these days. Let's just say that. I do more due diligence. I vet things more. I move a little more slowly. But at my heart, in my core, I do want to give that trust and that hope and that faith in someone. It really hurts my feelings when someone doesn't trust me or questions my integrity and asks for proof of something or evidence of something. I'm like, my word should be enough. I know that it is. I mean it when I say it. But I understand there's a lot of mistrust out there, and it's unfortunate. I think one of the most important things we can give to people is empathy, to put ourselves in their shoes. I remember a story years ago from Stephen Covey. I believe it's in his book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. And he talks about how he was on a train riding, I believe, from New Jersey into New York. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. The sun was shining. People were relaxed, reading their papers on the train, on the commute as they're going into town. But it was a Sunday. I believe he was headed to church or something like that. And he said he was sitting there, and a man got on the train or the subway, whatever it was, with several children. He sits down next to Mr. Covey, and he puts his hand in his head in his hands. He looks at the floor and just sits there. And his kids, meanwhile, start just wreaking havoc. Right? They're running up and down. They're bothering people. They're knocking people's papers. They're yelling. They're pushing. And they really just totally disrupt this peaceful, calm Sunday morning feeling. And finally, people are looking at this guy like, come on, dude, take control of your brood, right? And he's sitting right next to Stephen Covey. So Stephen Covey finally leans over to him and he says, excuse me, sir. He says, I don't know if you realize, but your kids are really bothering people. They're really being disruptive. And the guy kind of comes up out of his reverie, pulls his hand, looks over, kids, get over here. Come sit down. He yells at his kids, gets over there. And then he just sits there staring at the opposite wall. He says, I'm so sorry. He said, I think we're all in shock. He's speaking to Stephen Covey. He says, I think we're in shock. We just came from the hospital, and my wife of 25 years and my kid's mom just passed away. Well, as you can imagine, and Stephen Covey tells the story, that in an instant, he saw the entire situation differently. In an instant, rather than irritation, he felt compassion. He felt empathy. He felt grief for this total stranger who had just lost the most important person in his life. He talks about this as a paradigm shift. I think when we give people our empathy, our understanding, we put ourselves in their shoes, we have a paradigm shift. We might be Republican and they're Democrat. We might be Christian and they're Muslim. We might be LDS versus Catholic, black or white. It doesn't matter, right? But when we put ourselves in our shoes, when we give someone that much respect and value, amazing things happen. What's in it for me is the root of most problems. It's the root of our political problems, our relationships, parenting issues, professional challenges. I think that when we stop and we look outward, we give someone else that understanding and that appreciation, that respect, that time, amazing things happen. Unity can happen. Crucial conversations can happen. We're up against our second and last break. I know this hour flies by fast, but I think we're talking about some important principles. Don't go away. I'll be right back and we'll wrap up this morning's episode of Finding Certainty. All right, well, as we talk about these principles of a paradigm shift and empathy and understanding, one of the things I teach my salespeople all the time is when someone objects, customer has an objection, there are two responses. One is to forget that you have two ears and one mouth, and the other is to remember to show empathy, to put yourself in their shoes, to truly listen with those two ears, to talk less with that one mouth, and to realize that there is more going on here. Very rarely is the first objection you hear the real objection. And so when I say, I hear you, I understand, at least I want to. Help me understand. When you say it's too much, what are you saying? There's a lot of definitions of that. Maybe it's too much today. Maybe it's too much for them to approve personally. Maybe it's too much for them to write a check for right now, but they'd be totally open to terms, right? I mean, too often we hear at first blush what someone says and we think we understand what they mean. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt. We don't give them the opportunity to explain. We just give them lower their walls. Does nothing to help.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Well, if you're still with me, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me each week. If you're a frequent listener and if you've just stumbled across Finding Certainty this morning, I hope you'll come back again. We've been talking about paradigm shifts and empathy and understanding, and giving that gift to others that can create just extraordinary things. It opens up doors, it lowers walls, it can create understanding and connection. It could literally save governments, marriages, parent and child relationships. There's so much that can come when we just take a couple more minutes and give someone the benefit of the doubt and put ourselves in their shoes. Christ said we should walk a mile in someone's shoes and understand them. In fact, when they ask us to walk 1 mile, we should walk 2. We should go above and beyond and give even more. Another thing that we can give to others is forgiveness. It's a very popular, very famous quote by Nelson Mandela, where he says that resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. It just makes absolutely no sense. I know this is a hot topic. It's a touchy subject for people. It's difficult for us to forgive and forget, especially when we've been deeply hurt by someone else. But Nelson Mandela is a powerful example of someone who was able to do this. They imprisoned him for 27 years. And do you know that when he got out, he forgave his captors? The people loved him. He went on to become the president of South Africa. He became one of those figures like Gandhi and Winston Churchill and C.S. Lewis and others that stand out in history because of his ability to give forgiveness. Another quote, this one's a little more lighthearted, is from Joan London, and she says, "Holding on to anger, resentment, and hurt only gives you tense muscles, a headache, and a sore jaw from clenching your teeth. Forgiveness gives you back the laughter and the lightness in your life." Isn't that what we all want, is laughter and lightness in our life? I mean, don't we want that for us and for others? If there wasn't more, if there wasn't more of that in the world, wouldn't it be a better place? It was hard, right? Sometimes giving is not received. I've been married 3 times. My first 2 marriages, I gave my heart and soul to them. I even married a widow with 3 children. We had 2 boys together. I gave her 9 years of my life. And one day she told me she married me so the kids could have a dad. She said, "You deserve to be married to someone else, someone who marries you for you." At the time, it felt like she was giving me a kick in the gut, right? She broke my heart. But at the same time, she was giving me the opportunity to find real love. And so while at the time it didn't feel like it, she gave me a great gift. Sometimes gifts are like that, right? They have multiple benefits and multiple layers packed into them. And sometimes we need to stop and look for those, look for the benefits, look for the lessons that we have gained. When we talk about relationships, obviously what we should be giving is unconditional love. There's another quote that by Victor Hugo, author of Les Mis, says, "To love another person is to see the face of God." Or our Father in heaven, our Savior, Jesus Christ, they're the ultimate example of loving unconditionally. See, charity is the true love of Christ. And we know he loved us and he died for us. But I've spoken a few times about a book I really enjoy called Real Love. And it teaches us how to love ourselves first, to make sure that we understand it's our responsibility to be happy. It's our responsibility to be loving and full and grateful. It says there's only 3 responses when we deal with others. It's to live with them and love it, live with their idiosyncrasies or their weaknesses, their shortcomings, and love them. We can live with them and hate them, or we can choose to leave. Well, the only one that truly brings us joy is the first one. Sometimes we do need to leave. Sometimes it's a situation we need to get out. But if that's not the case and you're staying in the marriage, you have the choice of what you will give to that marriage. Will you give it acceptance and unconditional love, or will you give it expectations, demands, and expect the other person to make you happy? If you do, I promise you, you never will be. We need to give our expectations to ourselves. We need to make promises and keep them, but we need to give acceptance and love and support to those if we truly want a long and lasting and full and rich and unconditional relationship. We also need to give ourselves a break. Sometimes we're hardest on ourselves, right? We need to remember self-love, be confident, forgive ourselves. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. We need to give ourselves permission to be happy, to find joy. Some of us have to give ourselves permission to build wealth, right? We grew up hearing money is the root of all evil and things like that. And it's conditioned us to think that we don't deserve it, or that it's a wrong and unrighteous thing to want to be financially independent. It's not. There's many other verses that talk about the blessings from heaven and the good that we can do with them. I think it's so important that we choose to give of ourselves in whatever way that is. Going out and serving others, as I said, it leads to joy. But also look for ways where we can give back, ways that we can contribute. I made a decision to start this radio show almost 2 years ago. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary on August 12th. It's a lot of time and investment. It's a lot of effort, a lot of focus. It's a weekly commitment. But do you know that by doing that, by choosing to do that, make that investment of time and money and focus, it's been so fulfilling. It's opened up so many doors. Not only have I blessed others, but I've blessed myself. I've grown in the process. I gave myself permission to do something, to give up myself, to step into the dark. Sometimes we have to do that, right? And the benefits have come back tenfold. It's important we give back. We pay it forward. Not WIFM, what's in it for me, but HCIC, how can I contribute? At our company, Certainty Partners, Certainty Management, Certainty Holdings, Certainty Global, this is what we call the Certainty Collective. We started a program called the Certainty Partners Program, where we help nonprofits to raise unlimited zero-cost funding. We started another program for students. We help college students graduate debt-free. We call it the Certainty Fellowship. I'm giving a speech next in about 2 weeks for a large national fundraising association about how to raise unlimited funding. And I'll give you a little secret, a little hint. It's by giving as much as you receive. It's by what we call reciprocity, creating strategic partnerships, working together, not just asking for donations, but truly giving value in the process. I think it's really important that we give credit, that we acknowledge those who've helped us get where we're going and are helping us get there, and also giving thanks. And that's not just to people, that's also to God. My nightly routine, just so you know, consists of 3 things. I plan out the next day. I load a few pictures to a journal app I use. It's called JRNL Journal. I do a few pictures from the day and a little paragraph where I talk about what happened that day. It forces me to take, maybe 5 minutes each night before I go to sleep to reflect on and give thanks for the blessings of that day. And then I get on my knees. Much as I want to lay in bed and pray on my side or on my back, I force myself to get on my knees and pray. Why is it that we kneel when we pray? I heard recently, and I love this explanation, that we kneel because it gives credit where credit is due. It forces us to be in the lowest position possible, to be humble, to be cognizant, and to recognize that we are, as they say, the dust of the earth, that we are nothing without God in our lives, that we are below Him as much as we are within Him. I love that. I think it's so important when we talk about giving that we give a little bit of time to gratitude and memories, to prayer. We give thought to the meaning of what we do. I heard a talk last week on Sunday about prayer, and the speaker said, "Are you speaking to bless or to impress?" Comes back to asking ourselves that question: is what is our intent? What is the purpose of what we're doing and what we're giving? Obviously, if we're going to wax spiritual here, we should talk about tithing, because the scriptures say that if we give a tithe of our time and effort, of our resources, it will come back to us many times over. In fact, Malachi says the windows of heaven will be opened, blessings will be poured out upon us that we cannot count. Now I'm paraphrasing, but can you imagine the windows of heaven opening up? This interesting thing about giving is we can never catch up, whether it's with God or with others. It seems like the more we give, the more we're blessed. The more we pay it forward, the more it comes back to us, and we have to pay it forward more. We never, ever catch up. It's frustrating sometimes because we want to, right? But it applies in a lot of areas. This principle of tithing. I try to set aside time each week for my wife to go on a date night, to do a couple's inventory, to have a business meeting, to plan out the week. I don't do it very well sometimes, but I try to give her a tithe of my time. We do the same with our kids. We do the same with loved ones and friends and family. What is the intent? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? Christ said to give more. He said to walk that extra mile. Are we doing that in our own lives? I know I could do better, but I do try. I talked briefly earlier in the show about my wife, Tesha. There's very few things I would try to change about her. I mean, there's a couple I might change, but I say anybody you're with, you love 10 things about them and there's 10 things you could do without. But if you traded them in for somebody, you're just going to get someone else with 10 things you like about them and 10 things you don't like about them. So it's just not worth it. So much more worth it to give to that person your love, your patience, your support. Get to know them, make them feel loved, give them that unconditional love. Tesha's an amazing example of that. She gives me room to be myself. She gives me space to do what I do. She gives me latitude. No nagging. I know. I've been married 3 times. I know the difference between a wife who nags and a wife who doesn't. I've shared with my friends just how incredible she is. She gives me support and encouragement. She gives me patience, even when I'm hangry. I start getting hungry. I start getting angry. I start getting short. She says, the first thing she says is, have you eaten? Or do you need a bottle of water? Are you dehydrated? She knows that I'm just probably hungry or my blood sugar's low. She gives me that latitude to fall short, and it doesn't change how she feels about me. If we could all learn that lesson with each other, give that balance, that patience, that forgiveness, that empathy, that understanding, we would have our own paradigm shift in so many ways. In our relationships, in our communities, our businesses, and in our nation. I pray that we can. It is the secret to certainty in our lives and in our futures. I think it's the secret to peace worldwide. I appreciate you listening. I hope you had a fantastic 4th of July. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for giving me of your time to listen to this monologue. Hope you're getting something out of them. I really look forward to them each month. And I appreciate your giving me your patronage, your attention, and your support. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Certainty is out there. You can find it, and we can help. I wish you the very best. All right, guys. Well, if you're on the YouTube, I always say you get a little bit of behind the scenes and extra insights. If you're on the live audio show, you miss out on this part. But, this is a topic. I'll just close with this. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've been hurt deeply by people who didn't give a damn. People who didn't give, they took advantage. They had an enormous sum. I won't tell you because it's embarrassing, but it was tens of thousands of dollars that was stolen from us by a Swiss banker many, many years ago. I just think, man, you might be getting rich, but you're missing out on the point of true happiness. I know he'll get his due someday, hopefully, at least in the next life, but it's unfortunate that more people do not understand these principles. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and I've always wanted to create a company that would give back, would give opportunity to our employees, our contractors, but also make a difference in the community. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're not just making income, we're making a difference. And I speak from personal experience. It's even more astounding than I realized it would be. It's even better than I thought it would be. How fulfilling it is, how far-reaching it is, the ripple effects, domino effects, snowball effect, pick whatever metaphor you want, but the effects that come from doing that. Whether you do it with your own company or you just do it in your own neighborhood, your own family, if you look outward, try to give, not just receive. Try to ask HCIC, how can I contribute, not just WIFM, right? What's in it for me? I'm telling you, trust me, you will be more successful. You will become more wealthy in many ways. You will become more happy. You will bless the lives of others. You will not just do business, but you'll do good. You'll leave an impact and eventually a legacy that people will remember you by for many, many years to come. Those people in history who did that, people like Stephen Covey, people like Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, so many others who looked outward. I think of Mother Teresa, the movie that came out this last year, Cabrini, about the nun who moved to New York City, to the worst neighborhood in town, and created an orphanage and has gone on to change the lives of millions. Those are the people that are remembered. So if you want to be remembered, you want to do more than just live and die. We never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul to the cemetery, as they say. It's a true principle. What do you want to be remembered for? Who do you want to be? I challenge you and I encourage you to be more, to give, not just receive. Do so, and I promise you, you won't regret it. I appreciate you being on the call here. Thanks so much, and I wish you the very best.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.